What's good, guys? And welcome to another episode of Mini Football Logic. It's Zeno here. In today's episode, we're going to talk about Arsenal's 2-0 victory at St James's Park over Newcastle United. Now, of course, there's been many testing times this season for Arsenal, in particular in the last month or so, where they've had to win games. The West Ham match and there's a Hampton match come to mind primarily, as well as, of course, the Man City game and the Liverpool game too, to lesser extents, where they had to win these games in order to give themselves the best chance of winning the title. And unfortunately, in the West Ham and Southampton games, leads were blown by not by Arsenal, but by their opponents, and you could tell that they were suddenly feeling the pressure. And then Man City confirmed what everyone else believed by handing them a 4-1 defeat, and everyone thinks now the title race is over. But one thing we know about Arsenal and one thing we know about pressure is that it gets a lot easier to handle when the onus is no longer on you. And that performance that we just saw at St James's Park is proof of that, is testament to that. Of course, it's also an example of a hardened team that have gone through experiences and are literally learning from them. Just like Newcastle will learn from this in order to become a much more consistent force in the top four race in future seasons from now. But in the case of Arsenal, it's clear to see that they kind of did to Newcastle what how Man City did to Arsenal. And what I mean by that is using experience to get through these games, to get through this match and in important moments of the game. For example, when the game got rolling, when the kickoff started, Newcastle completely ran the opening 10 minutes. Jacob Murphy hit the post. They were given a penalty as well, but obviously it was overruled by VAR. It wasn't a penalty. But all in all, Newcastle started off pretty hot. But Arsenal weathered the storm, the pressure. Odegaard once again got another goal from midfield. Absolutely terrific strike. Low drive into the far corner. And Arsenal pretty much controlled the game from there. Of course, Newcastle tried to push, tried to create chances, tried to create opportunities, and they did that to an extent. But they just weren't able to completely get a clear opening, just like Arsenal did, where they kind of had 3 one-on-one chances. I think Martinelli, Saka, and Odegaard. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I believe they had 3 chances in that first half. And Newcastle had chances too. It ended 1-0 at half time, but it could have easily been, as Peter Drury kept saying in the commentary, 3-3. Nonetheless, it's one of those situations where Arsenal were able to hold out, control the game, and once that was all said and done, they were able to close it out, and Martinelli forced an own goal from Fabian Schär, and the game was pretty much done, pretty much over. Of course, Newcastle will once again sit back and look at the bigger picture, where it's clear to see that they're in the midst of a sensational season that no one really anticipated from them at this stage of their, come up with the Saudi Arabian money. But this is where they are. And they've taken advantage of, United rebuilding, Tottenham falling off, Chelsea falling off and rebuilding at the same time, and Liverpool dropping off. And they find themselves in third place regardless of that defeat, as United lost to West Ham, surprisingly enough. So they still remain in third place. And Champions League football is within their hands. They just need to make sure they don't lose too many games. Well, let's make sure for Newcastle, they have to win all of their games. Yeah, they could lose some games, but Liverpool right now are coming full steam ahead. And it's just better off to just try and win all the games, isn't it? Just to avoid any, bad things happening. They deserve top 4 for their performance overall this season. So it would be a big shame if, Liverpool came through in the dying embers of the season and completely robbed them of that top 4 position. Just like Leicester robbed the top 4 positions in seasons prior. Nonetheless, for Arsenal, they keep the title race alive. Many people were, writing the obituary and saying it was pretty much over and this is where the Arsenal collapse begins. But we should know now, under Arteta in particular, this season, they've shown a newfound resilience and newfound strength. And the signings that they've made have only reinforced that. Jacob Kiwior was solid, surprisingly on his weaker side, on the right side of the defence alongside Gabriel. He was solid. Wilson barely got a sniff. And obviously, Jorginho in midfield Well, we know that he can play as a single pivot in the midfield three. It's been done before. His time at Napoli, I believe, and also his time at Italy. Even though I believe sometimes he wouldn't play as a single pivot. But here at Arsenal, it seems like it fits him a lot better than, the four in midfield that was at Chelsea. He seems to be playing with newfound confidence. He's still doing, the over-exaggerated, fouls and stuff. When I say fouls, he gets fouled and he's over-exaggerating his reaction. But I'm not going to focus too much on it. That's not really football. He is a very talented player. He's a very solid passer of the ball. I say solid, he's world class. The guy knows how to shift the ball around the pitch. And obviously, on top of that, he's, got experience. He can actually read the game better than most people realize. In the season where he somehow finessed a third place in the Ballon d'Or standings, he actually showed a lot of defensive anticipation and ability. So to see him actually putting these performances on for Arsenal isn't a surprise, because he's in a system where he is benefiting from that. And him being in that team allows Partey to rest, so he doesn't get completely abused and used. And then obviously in the actual games, he can replace Partey in the sense that he is the pivot for which Odegaard and Xhaka can push on from. Obviously, Xhaka plays a bit more of a dynamic box-to-box role, and Odegaard is the pure attacking force of that three. And they can pretty much control the game. Even though Newcastle midfield did try, but Bruno Guimaraes just was not feeling it today. I don't know what was wrong with him, but he just wasn't feeling it. He tried, but again, could have done better, But all in all, a solid performance for Arsenal, and one that kind of proves people wrong where they expected them to fall apart, and they did not do that. They did not fold. So the title race is still on. It's not done yet. You know what I mean? So Arsenal, to their credit, continue to give themselves a chance to win the most unlikeliest of Premier League titles. We'll see if Man City can continue to keep winning, and if Arsenal can continue to keep up and keep giving themselves a chance to take advantage if Man City somehow ever do slip. And Newcastle, like I said, really, this is not their race. They're not looking for the title. Of course, you don't want to lose these games, especially when after the way they've lost it. They've had opportunities to definitely be in control of the game before Arsenal took control. But that's how it can be with football sometimes. I think they'll take the positives from this performance and focus on making that top 4 position concrete and giving themselves Champions League football and a chance to completely push forward their project a couple years ahead. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed listening, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Mini Laje.